Welcome to a sports betting podcast from pregame.com for the week of December 2nd, 2009. I'm your host, RJ Bell. I'm joined by Marco D'Angelo, 30 years in the business, Vegas runner, genuine professional bettor here in Las Vegas. This is segment 1 of 6, big game preview, college football, Florida and Alabama, battle of the undefeateds. All right, Vegas runner, tell us what the line's done in this game.
Okay, this one's at a neutral field at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. The line opened at 4.5, no total because it was early in the week. And since then, it's gone down to 3.5, up to 5.5. And as of right now, there's no line due to the Carlos Dunlap being suspended and running back Ingram from Alabama being question mark. So due to that status, they're not willing to book it right now.
Okay, so how would you describe the reasons behind the movement initially? Was it about these injuries and player availability?
Yeah, because at 4.5, the first move was going to go up because most of the sharps I spoke to thought the line should be near 6, and according to even LVSC's ratings, they had 5.5 between these two on a neutral field. So I thought it would go up around 6 at game time. But as soon as the Dunlop suspension, it's even news that he got pulled over, happened, it went down to 3.5. And since
so at this point, we know, unless I'm mistaken,
he's not playing. He's suspended, yeah.
And we're taping on Wednesday. And so the only question is the running back from Alabama's status.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So really, what we try to do is determine what the meaning of the wise guy moves are. In this case, we're not able to take much away right now.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so Marco, let's discuss this game as if the line is going to be, and again, Ingram's going to play a role. So, I mean, would you say if he does play, we're looking at about 5? If he doesn't, we're looking at 7? Does that sound right?
Exactly.
So why don't we discuss it along those assumptions? As a handicapper, Marco, what jumps out at you in this game?
Well, the first thing for me when I looked at this game, you have a rare occurrence. Obviously, it's number 1 versus number 2. But this is basically the second year in a row that we're in this exact same situation. It's not very often that a team gets to, get revenge in the exact same situation. And that is a huge motivator for Alabama to do. I mean, last year, Alabama, for all
let me jump in a second. And we actually talked about this. Dan Beebe and Mike Cook are doing a daily podcast called Today in Sports Betting. We've all guested on there. I was the Monday guest, and what we were talking about was Mike Cook said, he'll love I'm bringing this up again because I kind of blasted him about this. He said, I think New England is less motivated than New Orleans. I'm like, New England's fighting for a top 2 seed, and the fact that, if they lose this game, in which they ended up losing, is the chance of them getting that number 2 seed and getting a bye, which is so important, goes way down. How can you, maybe, there's really not shades of motivation.
No.
So that's my question to you. And that's one of the things we pride ourselves here is to really ask the questions. Can you really say Alabama has a motivational advantage? It's like saying, it's nice to have a jacket in the winter, it makes me warm, but if you got a heater and it's already 80 degrees, you don't need the jacket. I'm not saying that revenge isn't a motivation, but can it really be an incremental difference, or are both teams maximally motivated? They're one game from the national championship.
Well, as I usually do, I beg to differ. And here's the reason. Yes, they are both motivated for the same goal, but when you are number 2, there's a built-in distinction of added motivation because the whole time leading up to the game, everybody is talking about the other team is the better team. That's why so many times in the national championship game, the history has been where the dog has done so much better against the spread in those national championship games because they are the underdog. They're not the team that's expected to win. The public has said, you're not as good as Florida. And if somebody tells you you're not as good as somebody, you have more motivation to prove them wrong. It's human nature.
All right, so I guess my question is it that Alabama is going to be maximally motivated or motivated beyond max, which I guess I don't know how that happens, or is it Florida's going to be complacent? Because the argument you just made is there's 2 ways to look at this motivation issue. One is one team is more motivated, but the other team is maximally motivated, which is how is that the case? You can only go to max. Or the other one is Alabama is max because of the factors you're talking about, and because of the lack of those factors, Florida is complacent. So you believe Florida is going to be complacent in this spot?
See, I think that's a word not to use here. No, Florida's not going to be complacent, but they're not going to have as much focus or drive as Alabama, because Alabama's the one that needs to prove something. They lost to this team last year. Florida is the defending national champ. They have had the spotlight on them all year. They've always been in the shadow as number 2. They want to change that. They want to knock them off their perch.
Yeah, where Florida just had to keep winning and they're going to stay number 1. Alabama had to do something special.
It's just, I guess, like, what we tend to talk about here a lot is these are human beings. So my question is, if you're Tim Tebow or whatever, are you in a situation where you're not taking, could you take this game any more seriously?
Absolutely not. Hey, maybe Dunlop should have, but everyone else, no.
All right, so but if that's the case, then you and Marco are disagreeing, because if Florida has a maximum motivation, you can't go above it.
I think they're motivated to the max.
So, and again, I guess we have a disagreement here, is you believe that Florida could be more motivated.
Alabama.
No.
He's saying Alabama.
Exactly, but what I'm saying is if Alabama is maximally motivated, then, and that's an edge, that means Florida could be more motivated.
Yeah, right.
That's the edge that Marco's talking about.
It's a psychological edge.
Well, that's what motivation is psychological. So you're saying Florida can be more motivated.
See, the way you're wording it, I hear what you're saying, but you're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm saying that Alabama's the guy that's bringing the lunch pail to work, and they're staying until the job's done.
So if Florida was the underdog in this case, they would be more motivated.
Especially if they lost to that team last year.
All right, so if Florida was on revenge and they were the underdog in this game, they would be more motivated than they are coming into this game.
In my handicapping, that's
so
an advantage.
Florida could be more motivated.
They could be more motivated, or I like to use the word focused.
Okay, so to me, that's where I guess with the national championship on the line, I disagree. But again, there's two ways to look at it.
Here's the thing. Do you remember the old rental car commercials, Avis and Hertz? Mm-hmm. Avis built their commercials around, we're number 2, we try harder.
No, I understand the concept. The question is it just one game? If it's day after day, like with a company, being number 2 makes some sense where you're going to be extra motivated. If it's 1 or 2 games, I'm not sure. But
it's
again,
2 years here.
But no, it's one game in this case.
It's one game today, but it's been 2 years that Alabama's had to be the second fiddle in the SEC.
Very interesting that we have 2 sides here, or 2 angles on this, and we are in disagreement. We have less than 2 minutes. VR, hit me with the key points.
For me, bottom line, yeah, Florida won that game last year, but they won it late in the fourth quarter. They were losing, so they're going to show up for Alabama. They're not going to take this game lightly at all. What I see the big advantage for Florida is this. Alabama's team last year had John Parker at quarterback, not the kid that's going to be playing this Saturday. That's the huge difference, and I give a big edge there for Florida. Tebow's been in this spot before.
So you have a lean towards Florida?
Yeah, right now I definitely have a lean towards Florida.
And you have a lean towards Alabama?
That's negated by they don't have Percy Harvin for Florida this year.
True. But
you got
the double.
This isn't last year's teams. I mean,
No, exactly. But you got the double threat. Tebow throws and runs, where the Alabama quarterback's stationary. He passes the ball only.
So lean to Florida, lean Alabama motivationally. I have a lean towards Florida. Quickly, here's why. Check this out. 21-8 as a favorite ATS. 21-8 overall, so 2 different sets of games, and 20-6 versus winners. This is a team, even though versus winners, meaning the opponent is the winning team, even though they are a marquee team, they still seem to be undervalued.
Yeah.
All right, good conversation. Next up is going to be segment 2 of 6. We're going to preview another college game, Georgia Tech and Clemson. And remember, you can get all of our videos at pregame.tv, or if you want to download and listen, just go to iTunes and search for pregame.com.